You are listening to Woodland Walks, a podcast for the Woodland Trust, presented by Adam Shaw. We protect and plant trees for people, for wildlife.
Today's podcast is a little bit different. I've not been out and about, but that hasn't stopped our virtual journey. Today I'm meeting a famous daughter of Middlesbrough to talk about her obsession with fat pigeons and the avenue of trees. So, lots of great things come from Middlesbrough. Not a lot of people know that, but magician Paul Daniels comes from there, and so does comedian Bob Mortimer. Ridley Scott is from the northeast and supposedly based the opening shot of Blade Runner on the view from the old ICI plant at Wilton near there. There's a local dish called the parmo, which is chicken or pork covered in bechamel sauce, breadcrumbs and even more cheese. And on the first Saturday of the month, normally the Orange Pig Market pops up and the clucking pig sells gourmet Scotch eggs. But more importantly, the very lovely TV presenter and journalist Steph McGovern comes from Middlesbrough. She has her own show on Channel 4, presents Shop Well for Less, used to do BBC Breakfast and, well, many other things as well. More important than all of that, she's only relatively recently had a baby and took time out to chat with me. So, here is our socially distant podcast done over the phone about the woodland walks she likes and the growing importance of nature in her family life. More about the fat pigeons a little later on. So let's go. So did you grow up in the country or the city, or were you a country or city girl?
Neither really. So I grew up in a town, originally slap bang in the centre of the town in Middlesbrough. And then as my parents, got more money, got a better job, then we moved to like the outskirts of the town. I'm surrounded by a fair bit of greenery though. So when I knew I was talking to you, I was thinking about like growing up and going on walks and things. And actually there's a bit just near my house called the Avenue of Trees, which is literally where I used to go to have a think all the time. Like that was my place of, whatever my angst was, if it was teenage angst or it was exam stress, I'd take myself off to the Avenue of Trees and just sit there and, think basically. And funnily enough, my dad is an artist and he did this amazing painting of the Avenue of Trees for me. So I've got that up in my house and that literally is like my little kind of go-to place. I even look at that picture now as a everything's going to be all right. If I'm stressed, I try and picture myself there.
At the time, was that unusual amongst your friends, that age, trying to find solace and meditation amongst the trees, or is that quite normal?
Well, I wasn't even conscious that that's what I did, if you know what I mean. It's only in hindsight I've realised that was a place of where I used to get a lot of clarity, but it wasn't like I'm going to go to the Avenue of Trees for clarity. That's just where I always ended up. It was, and that's also where I'd hang out with my friends sometimes as well and do things we probably shouldn't be doing at that age. But so yeah, I suppose it's like mixed memories of having a proper laugh there, getting into a bit of trouble, and also, processing things there as well.
Do you still feel that that's important? Do you have a place to go?
Yes.
To do that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it is. I do get a lot from taking myself off to go and just sit somewhere, and it is normally somewhere green and or the coast as well. I absolutely love just going to the coast and staring out at the sea. When there aren't the distractions, are there, that you can kind of just sit there and take everything in. But then I end up watching, I was obsessed with watching ants when I was a kid. My mum used to go on about, she mentioned it the other day actually. And I think that's what I like doing when I'm, thinking about other things, is just go and sit somewhere. And when you're stressed or you need a bit of clarity, and then just watch like a couple of insects on a leaf, which sounds a bit daft, but I don't know what it is, but they're always there, aren't they? There's that reassurance of nature's always doing nature's thing, no matter what else is going on in the world. This makes me sound really weird, doesn't it? But but like, you know, if you look at a leaf and then you stare at a leaf or a bit of grass, and then you just start to notice things you would never notice normally, just like all the kind of habitat that's there, and they're all just getting on with their lives. I just find that quite fascinating and quite peaceful and calming. And I think you can tell when I haven't been able to just go out and immerse myself in a bit of nature, because I think that's when I'm probably at my most stressed.
I mean, it's an issue that's become a big topic of conversation, hasn't it? You know, the natural world and global warming and all of that. I have to say, I mean, I feel a lot of times I worry about it so much. I don't like engaging with it, because I go, oh, I'm not another program that's going to tell me the world's ending. And I get it. And I wonder whether you feel that switches you, and not just you, whether you get the impression friends or even younger people onto the subject, or whether it turns people off because it's all so depressing. What do you think?
I'm not despite being a journalist, I kind of avoid the news quite a lot, really, on every level, particularly at the minute, which is so weird because I've spent my whole life, earning a living from reporting on the news. But I do think it is really hard, especially when you have kids. You're suddenly thinking, what kind of future is my child going to have? Like, wow, have we looked after the planet enough? Have I done my bit? I don't know. I try, but I'm not particularly brilliant. So I do probably avoid kind of hearing the reports about the damage that's been done. But then I'm quite reassured by young people, in that I think the next generation, because I spend a lot of time in schools and things, and whenever I talk to them, their issues are a lot around the planet in a way that I don't think I was as a kid. But I think young people now are more like that. They actually want to work for businesses that have got corporate social responsibility as a key thing. And now, I wouldn't have ever cared about that in the past. I'd just be like, how much are you going to pay me? And is the job any good? And I think that there's that sacrifice now of, actually, I'm going to work for companies that actually understand sustainability. It really makes me more optimistic about stuff.
And I think when I was growing up, I had friends who were sort of very interested in the environment, but it wasn't cool. That was sort of like, my hippie friend, whatever.
Yes.
Probably cool is not a cool word anymore. So my terminology is probably...
It's sick, isn't it?
It's sick. Okay, right, sick. Do you think that those sorts of issues have become sick, become cool now?
Yeah,
in a way they
I do. I think you're right. I think we would have, I mean, I've worked with Hugh Fearnley-Whitton still quite a bit, and obviously he's a massive environmental campaigner and done loads of programs on plastics and everything. And when I first met him, or just before I met him, I was like, oh man, he's a tree hugger. He's a hippie and all this. And actually, we are very similar in lots of ways, and I didn't realise it. And it is cool he is cool. And I think he has lots of young people massively respect him as well because of what he's doing. And I've seen that when I've been out and about with him, and it's definitely trendier to care about the planet now. And that's a really good thing, isn't it? Because then it means people who maybe aren't that bothered, but who want to be trendy, will still do their bit.
I wonder how you go. I mean, I feel part of the reason why I quite like taking a walk is I don't feel very naturally connected to the outside world. Like I buy whatever fruit and vegetables I want all year round. Once I signed up to just a British farmer's farm box, and he went, oh, not many people stay with us. And then I realised why, because huge parts of the year you just get potatoes. Coming out the ground in England right now. And so I sort of quite like to see the season change, but I feel I'm not naturally connected to it.
Yeah.
I would just wonder whether you feel a natural connection or not.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I am very much a consumer. And I don't think seasonally. I'm not thinking, our asparagus is in season at the minute. I'm just thinking, what are we having for our tea? And, do we need... So, yeah, you're right. But, sorry, go on.
No, I just wonder, I mean, I'm not having a go at you for not eating asparagus season or anything. But I just want... It was interesting to me that you said at the beginning, you had the avenue of trees. That's important. It's important to you to go outside. And therefore... but actually in your daily life, it seems you're not connected. You don't sort of feel that, oh, I'm not with the season. I just wonder whether you miss that, whether you've ever thought of that, or whether you don't care.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose I separate it into two things. I think of like the kind of natural world in something that I go out and look at, and not something that's part of my everyday, you know, in terms of it's not in my house, but actually it obviously is through produce and everything else. But although in lockdown, because of the fact you couldn't get online deliveries and stuff, we started using local greengrocers and butchers and things like that, which weren't that much more expensive than the supermarket. But the quality and therefore our experience of food and stuff is massive. Like, it's so much better, and it makes me really value the kind of local businesses, you know, the local farms and things, because there are a lot around here. You know, I'm in North Yorkshire, so there's a lot of agriculture and stuff, and it's been nice that lockdowns made me think more about supply, and I'm not connected with nature in that I don't think about it day to day, what the seasons of fruit are going to be or whatever else. I try and think about it commercially a bit in terms of it being local and it being British. So, yeah.
I mean, being literally locked away, has that changed? Have you felt sort of, oh, look at now, I've got to get out? Or has it changed your view of the countryside, of those trees that you like, or anything like that? Or has it not been a big change?
Oh no, absolutely. I have noticed like nature in a way that even more than I did when I was young. Like, for example, I cannot stop watching the pigeons in my back garden, because I'm just thinking about the fact that they have the ability to just fly anywhere. And also the fact that they're getting really fat, and it's become a real bit. I keep asking everyone about it. I'm sure pigeons are getting fatter. The pigeons around here are absolutely massive, and so I'm noticing all that.
Are you feeding them? Is that?
No, we're not. No, but this is what I mean. And other people, I've had this debate on Twitter with people, and then somebody very funnily has got an account as a pigeon, and they were messaging me going, "Stop fat shaming us, Steph." And then they were really funny actually replying to people's tweets, but everyone was talking about it. And I think, and funnily enough, I've chatted to people like Chris Packham and stuff about this, is that he's been going on for years about connecting with nature, hasn't he? And that's what we're all now doing in lockdown. Like, we are connecting more with nature. We're all talking about how we can hear birdsong more, and we can.
There's a lot of talk, isn't there, about we're in lockdown, or when we come out, it's got to be different. It almost felt like, you know, after the war, after the Second World War, we've got to have a home fit for heroes, all that sort of talk around that. I have to go, I'm a bit sceptical about whether things really are going to change. People just sort of using this. What's your sense? Do you think that things will be different when we all come out, or the moment we can get away to the Costa del Sol again, the planes will be full and we'll go, well, we worry about it, but we also want our summer holidays and our asparagus from Ghana.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think I share your scepticism about this, because things might change for a few weeks, but then we'll all just revert back to fast consumerism and you know, disposable whatever, and that's really sad. So I'd like to say things would and maybe they'll improve a bit. You know, I was talking to my friend and she's convinced that her workplace is definitely going to change because of this. So maybe there'll be less commuting, because we've actually shown you can do things remotely because we've been forced to. And as much as we all hate Zooms now, I think that at least they've shown that the majority of things we thought we could never do online, we can. So maybe that might cut things down a bit. But I don't know. It feels a bit too worthy.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I think there are some. I'm not very fit, but I joined 2 yoga classes on Zoom, and I much prefer it because I'm rubbish. But I prefer it to being in person, because when they do stuff I can't do, I just hide from the camera.
Yeah.
And in a way that I'd never go to the class because I go, oh, I can't do it. I'm going to be so embarrassed. But here I go, well, if it's difficult, I'll just move out of shot. And then no one can see I've sat down for the past 10 minutes. So I just think, oh, that's quite interesting. I've engaged in a way I'd never have the guts to go do a yoga class in person, but I feel free. I don't know.
Yeah. But that's an interesting point, that actually maybe the people doing the class feel they can, you know, you can make mistakes or whatever and you won't get that embarrassment. That's really interesting. I'd not thought of it that way.
Is there a place now that you'd either go to, or perhaps a place you'd like to go to, like to be special for your daughter in the future?
The Yorkshire Dales. I love places like Wensleydale and everything like that. And we go there a lot, just wander around the fields, and I love all that. But I think also in terms of like a special place for my daughter, I love the northeast coast. I absolutely love the kind of fact there aren't that many tourists there as well, and it's so like harsh and cold, but also beautiful, and that's definitely something. Excuse me. That's definitely something I want to feature in her life. You know, I think there's every chance we'll probably move to the coast at some point. Raw nature and watching the sea and being able to run around on a beach, and I'd love her to learn to surf in the sea, the North Sea. I mean, that's pretty horrendous, isn't it? But on one level, but it's not exactly like Newquay. But all of that, yeah, definitely. And that's something, you know, when I was young, I was growing up, of course, I loved my wander around the avenue of trees, but I took it for granted. I didn't think, oh, this is a really special thing in my life. And I was desperate to move to London. And, you know, at 18, I did move to London because I was just desperate to, you know, go to the city and be in all the hustle and bustle. And I do still love the city, but obviously, and everyone will say this, as you get older, you just value nature and peace and beauty, natural beauty, in such a way that it makes you desperate to go and be there. So that's, you know, I've definitely edged, as I'm back in the northeast, not quite as northeast as I want to be, but I'm edging closer and closer back to a place that to me is just really beautiful, and that is, you know, North Yorkshire. That's Tyneside. All of that to me is just absolutely gorgeous. It's green and gorgeous, and yeah, there's rough bits everywhere, but that's home up there, and it's gorgeous. So, and I remember it was a really kind of moment in my life of thinking, hey, you media Londoners, you haven't got a clue, have you? That's where I grew up in. Definitely going to be a part of my daughter's life. I imagine she's probably going to be like me though, and desperate to get to the big city when she can, when she's a teenager. But I think you always eventually come back to wanting to be in a place that's beautiful and green.
So that was the lovely Steph McGovern. Her Channel 4 daily programme has taken a small break, but People of the Future, she no doubt will be appearing on a screen very near you very shortly. Now, because of the lockdown, my travels have been somewhat curtailed, but over the next few podcasts, we've got some other well-known voices joining us. So do stay tuned for those and sign up for further episodes. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well, stay happy. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Woodland Trust Woodland Walks with Adam Shaw. Don't forget to subscribe to the series on iTunes or wherever you're listening to us, and do give us a review and a rating. And why not send us a recording of your favourite woodland walk to be included in a future podcast? Keep it to a maximum of 5 minutes, and please tell us what makes your woodland walk special. Or send us an email with details of your favourite walk and what makes it special to you. Send any audio files to podcast@woodlandtrust.org.uk. We look forward to hearing from you.